Do you ever have that moment at 3 a.m. when you are doom scrolling and you come across a video of a moon with a face on it eating an entire planet? Or maybe a giant eyeball under the ocean doing something it shouldn't be doing? Doesn't make any sense. Welcome to the world of cosmic horror. Today I'll be ranking the stages from slightly unsettling to I am not sleeping tonight. Cosmic horror. What is it? Well, I'm here to tell you what it is. Cosmic horror, or otherwise known as Lovecraftian horror, is a subgenre of horror that emphasizes the terror of the unknown, inexplicable, the vastness of the universe, and the insignificance of humanity. I just want to preface this video by saying that just because I give a title to one of these levels or genres, it does not mean that this thing is any better and or worse than another category. If I say level 1 or chapter 1 or whatever, that doesn't mean it sucks objectively. I'm just going to give a title, and then I'm going to talk about the things in that title, and then we're going to move on. Of course, my 7th category is the greatest of all time, so those will objectively be better than the other things that I talk about. So, moving on. Level 1, Cosmic Slop. I won't spend too much time on this subject, as most of these slop things that I'm going to talk about are probably videos that you may have seen doom scrolling or will see doom scrolling at some point in the future. So the term slop is a term that is definitely thrown around quite a bit. When I use it in this context, it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just what I'm using to describe something that is like short form or something you might see on Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube shorts for that matter. Things I consider to be cosmic slop are these short form videos that you will see on said platforms. They often involve either AI, which I definitely would consider slop, CGI, or some other art form to evoke an emotion of dread. Most of these videos involve megalophobia, which is the fear of large objects, or astrophobia, which is the fear of the stars and the unknown vastness of the universe, which I guess would be a good way to describe cosmic horror itself. Some examples of this are a big scary monster eats the planet with no explanation, just really cool CGI that someone decided to make on their spare time, or like I said earlier, a big spooky eyeball that's just under the surface of the water out in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And you're like, yeah, I would hate for that to happen. Now I'm never going on Carnival Cruise ever again. A named example of something on this level is the video The Moon Woke Up by Mr. Friend. And that's all I have to say about Cosmic Slop. Level 2, or Subject 2, or whatever we want to call 2, ARGs and analog horror. An ARG is an alternate reality game, and analog horror is some of the horror that you can find on different parts of YouTube, or I would assume maybe Twitter. Sometimes you can find videos on TikTok or Instagram. Some of those may just be short form videos, and some of them may be more of a binge-worthy series to watch, and I will list a few of those things that come to mind now. A few well-known examples are, for instance, Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. It is a bizarre fictional tourist attraction based in West Texas and was developed by a man named Trevor Roberts. The reason I find this to fit into cosmic horror is because of the inexplainableness of the organism itself, its larger than life feel, and just the concept itself, although set in this world, does feel otherworldly. The flesh pit is an otherworldly living creature that has an ecosystem of various creatures inside it. So that's why I put it in here. Number 2 is the Monument Mythos, which is a YouTube series that blends alternate history with different cosmic horror elements. For example, these things known as special trees, which are interdimensional organisms, and famous American monuments that have been affected by alternate realities. Also, the entities that exist within those monuments give that unknown feeling that cosmic horror is known for. Example number 3, Local 58. Widely considered to be the father of modern analog horror, is a series by Chris Straub. The series, which you can watch on YouTube, is a series of broadcasts from a news station that seems to be manipulated by some sort of cosmic being that seems to be residing in the moon. I personally haven't seen this series yet, but I heard it's great, and I plan on checking it out as soon as possible. I think I'd be doing a disservice to ARG lovers if I neglected to mention the SCP Wiki, which is a wiki full of stories about the something secure, contain, protect, or imprison. I don't know. But it's basically a Wikipedia full of different monster stories, objects, artifacts that is a crowdsourced type deal. I know of like a couple monsters on there. My favorite concept or idea is the IKEA concept. I will put whatever SCP number that is here. But essentially, from what I remember, is if you walk inside of an IKEA, you actually never leave the IKEA. You leave, but you're actually still inside that IKEA. And that just goes on forever and ever, is how I understand it. But like I said, check it out. There's well over 9,000 different SCPs, and they are numbered as such. There's a couple cult classics, like this guy. So, yeah, that's what I have to say. I feel like SCP definitely falls into the realm of cosmic horror because it's also just vast. It's different. There's so many different things, ancient artifacts, weird aliens, concepts that are just beyond knowledge, reasoning, human understanding, those such things. So, Chapter 3, Level 3, Number 3 on my list of things that I want to talk about when it comes to cosmic horror is short films and or short stories. This level is obviously for the shorter bite-sized stories that you might want to get into that are easy to read, quick watches, something that is a good baby step into the world of cosmic horror. So the first one I put on this list was Portrait of God. My brother is calling. Starting off with number 1 is Portrait of God. A short film by Dylan Clark is about a girl who she's recording, I want to say like a PowerPoint video of some sort, and she's explaining this basically black canvas painting, and while she's explaining it, you as a viewer are kind of a part of the story as well. It's basically this blank black canvas, and at first it doesn't appear that there's anything going on, but after looking at it for a little while, starts to notice something, and there's like other recordings of people talking about it and being like, oh, it's so beautiful, or this, that, or the other, and it's just indescribable and amazing. And the longer that she looks at the painting, you see like this bright light coming, and you're like, oh, dang, I see something too. Like you feel like you're a part of it, but you're also like watching her. And then that's when the horror happens, and I don't want to give it away. I think that you should just YouTube Portrait of God. Check it out. Super awesome short film, only about like 9 minutes long, something like that. Definitely check it out. Number 2 is a short story called Answer by the author Frederick Brown. The short story Answer is essentially this man named Dwan Eve has finished this intergalactic supercomputer that is combined between all of the populated planets in the known universe, which is roughly 96 billion, if you care to know. And so he's essentially completed that. He's finally going to be the guy to flip the switch on to connect this supercomputer of all the vast knowledge of all the interconnected human races throughout the universe, essentially. And once he turns this thing on, he asks it a question, and he says, "Is there a God?" And the AI supercomputer's response is, "There is now." And then he fuses the switch permanently on, and that's it. If you don't believe me, just Google the story Answer by Frederick Brown, and you'll read it probably faster than I describe it to you. That being said, I really do like the concept that it's super short, it's super to the point. It does evoke a little bit of dread, a little bit of just like, oh no, I just made the being that now is going to control the universe. It's cool that it expands that far as well. It's not just like, it's this simple AI on the planet, like it took that much. The other thing I find really cool about it is that the story was written in 1954. So just to think about like when we try and conceptualize what like future technology and stuff is going to be like I can't even think about it because I'm just like, what more is there to do? But this particular writer did a really good job of basically making something up and making it spooky. I think that he got to a level that I was like, I don't know if it's going to take 96 billion planets. I think it might just take one. But, you know, I guess cosmic horror is up to interpretation. Number 3 on this list is a short novella, I believe is how it's pronounced, that goes by the name Who Goes There? Written by John Campbell. Who Goes There is a short book that is essentially the precursor for what we know and love as John Carpenter's The Thing. So with that being said, I don't want to get too much into that one specifically. It's a good short read. It has a little bit more detail, I would say, than the movie, but it obviously was powerful enough to give influence to basically what I would call one of the greatest. But we will get to that later in the video. On another note, I just remembered that there's another story that goes along with that. I'll have to put the name up here because I can't remember it right now. But it is actually the Aliens version of that story, and it's really cool. It gives a different perspective, where in most cosmic horror anything or horror in general, you really only get the perspective of like the protagonist, not necessarily the antagonist. So it's cool to see it from that perspective. Like I said, I'll put the name of whatever that story is up here. Also another good one to check. I think it's a shorter read, but another good one to check out. So on to number 4, chapter 4, level 4, whatever we're calling it, because people got angry about my number system. So maybe I'll just rage bait them into watching this one. I call this one Just Missed the Mark. The reason I say that is because I think that it would behoove me to add these into cosmic horror. I think some of the cases people would argue that it definitely is in there. I think some of these I would say more fall into maybe a different category, maybe psychological horror or just general like science fiction horror with a basis on aliens or whatever. That's how I'll preface that. Number 1 being the movie Annihilation. Yes, I agree. I think that it is cosmic horror. The reason I didn't want to put it up further on my list of movies is because I think it dives into a couple other subjects: depression, anxiety, distrust. That being said, Annihilation's awesome. It's a very beautiful movie that shows, I think it shows like a beautiful side of cosmic horror that, yeah, there's a lot of scary things in it. And I will say that it has probably the scariest scene I've ever seen in a movie. If you know, you know. It's a bear with like a human voice that's also mutated and has like half a skull and like a human inside of it. Literally the most terrifying scene I've ever seen in modern day cinema. There was a lot of like really beautiful aspects, and essentially what it is this alien landed on the planet. There's a quarantine zone. These scientists are going in to figure out what's going on. They kind of get all dazed, confused. Everything gets all mumble jumbled. And then they are like looking for these other scientists, and they kind of find them or evidence of them. And they're not really them anymore. They have turned into like plants or mutated into monsters. And sometimes like the animals are mutating into plants, which I think is a really beautiful concept. It's not like dreadful. The ending, from what I remember, kind of whack. You should definitely check it out. Kind of a sick movie. And then when you see the bear scene, you're going to be like, holy shit. Number 2 I added on this list is Cabin in the Woods, starring a young Chris Hemsworth. Cabin in the Woods is a movie about a bunch of teenagers going to a cabin in the woods. What I like that's different about this movie is they brought in a lot of different horror concepts into the movie. This event that is happening, for lack of a better term, is being controlled by a bunch of scientist occultists. Essentially, they have control of all these different like horror genre tropes, and they're like controlling like what happens if there's gonna be monsters. They're also in control of like different drugs that they can put into the air to kind of give these teenagers confused, messed up. It's has some funny elements, but essentially they are using these teenagers as a blood sacrifice to an eldritch being that lives underneath the compound. And that's why I base it in cosmic horror. Not only that, but because some of the monsters kind of are in that realm. But I also wouldn't put that at like, you know, the greatest of all time or nothing like that. Funny movie, awesome horror movie. It's definitely one you can watch a few times and not get bored of it. Because I feel like there's like a lot of different monsters that are kind of little Easter eggs. Number 3, I know this might ruffle a few feathers. The 1979 hood classic, Alien. It's an alien movie. I think that they're in the realm of the Alien universe. There is cosmic horror elements, but I would say that the original Alien movie is an alien horror movie. Fight me. I don't want to downplay this movie's significance in the genre of horror in general, or in alien horror, sci-fi horror. I do think that it is a very significant movie in that realm. I just don't think it comes into the realm of cosmic horror, in my professional opinion. H.R. Geiger and his artwork, that is the basis, influence, or whatnot for Alien and its creatures and its structure and its just physical being. I think his artwork definitely dives into more cosmic horror for sure. Look him up. You'll see some pretty crazy stuff. A little bit phallic, but you know, I guess if that's art, then so be it. All right, chapter 5, level 5. Now we're getting into the good stuff. something I can speak on. Video games. I love good short stories with cosmic horror. I love good movies with cosmic horror, but something that gets you well immersed into the world of cosmic horror is video games. And to start off, I'm going to talk about Dead Space. Dead Space, if you haven't played it, you play as a character named Isaac Clarke as he goes to board the Ishimara, which is a planet-cracking mining ship. You very early on find out that something has gone awry. You get onto the ship, and there happens to be a bunch of mutated human beings on there who are horrifying. That's not where I would put it in the cosmic horror area. Where I will is the reason that they are mutated isn't because of some sort of like disease or, thing. It is because of an alien artifact known as the marker. For reasons for you to figure out, the marker turns people into mutated abominations. That game was pivotal in my childhood, scared the heck out of me. It was a game that me and my best friend at the time would literally pass the controller off to each other. Like every time we died, you try it, I try it. And then honestly, third one came out. A lot of people hated it. I just liked the fact that we could play 2-player, and it definitely delved into more of the psychological horror, which I thought was cool. And like, unless you were playing in the same room, like, it was cool to see the other character was like seeing things and you can see on your screen. But, Dead Space is fantastic in the era of cosmic horror. I can't wait to see what else comes out of that. I know that they did the Castillo Protocol or something or another. I never ended up playing it. Maybe I will one day, maybe when it's like $10 or something. But the later games ended up bringing on some full-on eldritch horror with the Brethren Moons, which are living amalgamations of biomass that are consumed by the markers. Number 2, Mass Effect. Now hear me out. I know. Alien sci-fi RPG. Not a lot of horror, not a lot of, spooky stuff. I do think that the concept of the Reapers is in that realm. Here's why. The Reapers come around every 50,000 years to consume all advanced civilizations, and they do so because they are trying to stop the inevitability of organic and synthetic warfare. That being said, they could be coming at any time now, so watch out. I think what is cool about the Reapers is they're very mysterious. There's a lot of lore on where do they come from, where do they go afterwards, where do you come from, Cotton Eye Joe. Number 3 in terms of video games, I decided to add to this list was the game Lethal Company. A bit of a more lighthearted example, but I think it definitely fits in this realm. The company is a giant tentacled monster that you feed junk. If you don't feed him enough junk, you just die. There's no winning, and all of the creatures on the planets have this background lore of being mutated human beings, mutated animals from Earth, which I find really cool. It's just, I really like that we're getting these really good horror games, good multiplayer games, good cosmic thought processes from dudes who are sitting in their basement, and we're getting poop from these AAA game studios. So I am looking forward to the future of indie video games in the cosmic horror genre. Number 4, Iron Lung. All I know about it is that there's no more stars in the sky and civilization is lived on these ships and you go to blood planets. That's all I know. So it is on the list. I figured I would mention it because it was one that was told to me. I don't know anything about it, but there you go. Level 6, number 6 is honorable mentions. The reason I made this category is because these are fantastic cosmic horror films, concepts, whatever, that I just didn't want to put in the category of greatest all time, but I think that they're there. You know, they are really good movies. They delve into a lot of the cosmic horror concepts, the dread, the eldritch horrors, the void, whatever it is you want to call it. So number 1 is The Mist, originally written by Stephen King, is a movie about a guy and his family, and they go into a supermarket. That's it, the end. Psych! Yes. Now, The Mist is this mist that floods into this town while all of the surviving members of the town kind of huddle together inside of a gas station, and they are attacked by inexplicable, tentacled creatures. What more do you need? To further add on to that is the ending of the movie was horrendous, horrible. I'm not going to spoil it. You have to watch it yourself, and then make sure you watch a movie afterwards because you'll just be depressed. So, thanks, Stephen King. Number 2, Hellboy. Hellboy, the comics, the movies, specifically when you're talking about the Nazi party opening up a portal to hell, Hellboy himself is kind of this cosmic entity. The horrors that are beyond the different beings that Hellboy fights in the first movie, the second movie, all give these Lovecraftian feels, this cosmic horror feel, these just beings beyond this realm. And yes, it's like, you know, hell and chaos and whatnot, but I think that the two can also be symbiotic in that relationship. I mean, fantastic movies. So if you haven't seen them, you got to go watch them. They're hood classics. I watched Hellboy 1 the other day and I was like, damn, these movies were like really cool. No wonder me and my brother watched them a billion times when we were younger. Number 3 is going to be Bird Box. The reason I put Bird Box on this list is it came out right after A Quiet Place, and so it kind of felt like a cheap copy. I don't know which one was being recorded first, this, that, or the other. I don't know if it was a timing thing, whatever. But when it came out, it was cool because like A Quiet Place came out, and that was, you know, being quiet, like the aliens, they can hear you and all this stuff. So, you know, that touched on your senses, and that was alien post-apocalyptic horror movie, which is, the first one was great. The second one, only thing I remember was I went to the movie theaters after waiting to see this movie for like 3 years because it was supposed to come out, then there was COVID, and there was a group of kids talking the entire movie. It was the only time I've ever gone and been a Karen, and I went and got the manager because I was like, of all movies to talk in, you're going to talk during A Quiet Place. Mind-blowing. Back to my original point, Bird Box, obviously, you know, is the senses of the eyes. The concept of a bird box, I think, is kind of like the whole canary concept that they used to use in the coal mines. Using a canary, if the canary died, it was like, get out of there, there's too much carbon monoxide or whatever. Bird Box is like essentially the same thing, where there's these birds. Something to do with the birds has to do with the monster. When people look at this monster, they go insane. They kill themselves, they go crazy. Some people who are crazy think that the monsters are beautiful. And the only time you really get to see, like, it's an unknown horror, you're kind of part of the movie. You don't see the thing, except for like someone who does these drawings, and it's very cosmic and very eldritch and very lots of tentacles and spooky. And also, just like I said, I think it fits into this genre perfectly, but is just not the GOAT. Level 7. The GOATs, dude. The greatest of all time, in my opinion. I'm talking Event Horizon. I'm talking John Carpenter's The Thing. I'm talking C.S. Lewis Space Trilogy. Bet you didn't see that one coming. And I'm about to get into it. Event Horizon, I would consider like the precipice of space cosmic horror. The Lewis and Clark go to find the Event Horizon, which was on a mission to Proxima Centauri. And then it disappeared. and then years later reappeared. So the crew of the Lewis and the Clark go to find out what the heck is going on. When they get to the event horizon, everything is very not chill. There's unease. The place is quiet, desolate. The gravity's not working there. Nothing in there is working except for the faster than light core inside the ship. Eventually, throughout their investigation, they find out that the previous crew of the Event Horizon have all perished, and they're trying to figure out why. So they find like videotapes and these recordings, and everything is weird, and people are talking in Latin, and everyone looks like they have been cut up and tortured, and you're just like, bro, this was a spaceship that was just supposed to be going to some other star system. What the heck? Yeah, so it turns out faster than light travel may send you to hell. And that's essentially what happened, as the core for the faster than light travel is a black hole, hence the name Event Horizon. But the black hole, whether it did its job right or wrong, who are we to say? It teleported the crew in the ship to a plane of pure chaos and agony. The crew of the Lewis Clark eventually starts falling to those same symptoms. Stuff starts getting really crazy. They start killing each other, killing themselves. It's not good, and it's a movie that keeps me up at night. The reason why is because, there's a lot of really good movies about fast and light travel, time travel, teleportation, stuff like that, but not a lot of them go into what could go wrong. And this movie, I think, is like, it kind of just, it flipped the switch and was like, dang, I never really thought that, like, maybe instead of taking us, halfway across the galaxy or universe or whatever, it'll just transport you to another dimension, also known as hell. So, something to think about. One of the fan theories is that the Event Horizon was one of the first ships to enter what the Warhammer 40k universe calls the Warp. Yes, I wanted to get a Warhammer 40k reference in here because I don't want you to think that I don't think that Warhammer 40k is in the cosmic horror genre, but I think that it also falls into just sci-fi and destruction. Cool fan theory, in my opinion. Number 2 on the greatest of all times is something you may or may not have heard of, but the C.S. Lewis space trilogy. The books in order: Out of the Silent Planet, Paralandra, and That Hideous Strength. So if you're unfamiliar with who C.S. Lewis is, he is an author. He was friends with J.R. Tolkien. He, I believe, was in the First World War, and he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia. Famous Christian author. I found out recently that he wrote a sci-fi series. Now, here's why I decided that this is one of the greatest cosmic horror series of all time. Out of the Silent Planet is a book about a man named Ransom who gets kidnapped and taken to the planet Mars. When he arrives on planet Mars, he finds out that there are living beings there. Without getting into too much detail about that, he eventually gets taken to somewhere on Mars by these beings. He learns their language, and he's trying to learn about why they exist, how they exist, why doesn't planet Earth know they exist, all these other things. Eventually, Ransom gets taken to this location where he ends up talking to this, what we'll call an angel. And this angel kind of explains to Ransom what is going on in the universe. So what we know is space is essentially heaven, and each of the planets have a watcher over them, an angel, for lack of a better term, to overwatch the planet. And most of the universe, or at least in this universe, the solar system, is in harmony. Everything's beautiful and good in the world, so to speak, except for this place called Earth, which is, I believe, called Thulkundra, or maybe that's Mars. The reason Earth is called the Silent Planet is because of the demon that resides over Earth, or Satan. The trilogy kind of goes into a Christian canonical version of what I would consider cosmic horror. There was parts in the first book that I thought were very relevant to cosmic horror. There were parts in the second book that had me like rethinking Genesis and the Bible and being like, wow, this is just crazy. This is such a different way to look at it. And I am currently reading That Hideous Strength, so I cannot speak on that. But the first two books were good enough for me to put it on this list. So check it out. And finally, the greatest cosmic horror media piece of all time, John Carpenter's The Thing. Need I say more? Obviously, based off of the original story that I talked about earlier, Who Goes There, and a movie that came out in the 50s called The Thing from Another World. John Carpenter's The Thing is the best rendition of The Thing. It is about an alien that comes to Earth that wants to just take over all basically organic life, and it does so. The movie has this just sense of dread, this feeling of uncertainty, paranoia. You feel like you're part of the movie. You feel like what is going on. At the end of the movie, you're like, I don't know if the Thing is this guy, if he's the Thing, if either of them are the Thing, or neither of them are the Thing. And as a kid watching it, I was fully convinced that the alien was actually in Antarctica, and it was only a matter of time before it made it to the mainland and consumed all of us, and that terrified me. That being said, that's the end of my list, my chapters of cosmic horror. Thank you for checking this out. Please comment on what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. Argue with me about the first 3 minutes of the video, because half of you, that's the only thing you're going to watch. Those of you who made it this far, please like, subscribe, comment if you want me to do more on this subject. If you think I should never talk about cosmic horror ever again, should get a real job, that's fine. I totally get it. But like I said, thanks for sticking along this long, and until next time. See you.